Welcome to a special episode of the Relevant Podcast. This fall, we're hosting a series of conversations we're calling the Impact Series. We'll be talking with people who are doing something meaningful with what they've been given, like creators using their platforms for good, leaders turning ideas into movements, and people finding ways to make a difference right where they are. Well, the heart behind the series is simple. Every one of us has the potential to make an impact. These conversations are meant to challenge, inspire, and maybe help you see your own calling a little differently. And by the way, we're grateful to World Vision for presenting the Impact Series. Well, today we're kicking everything off with an exciting guest, Jimmy Darts. You've probably seen his incredibly moving videos on social media. He's the guy who surprises strangers with huge gestures of generosity, changing people's lives in grocery stores, parking lots, coffee shops. But what most people don't realize is just how far it's gone. Jimmy's videos have reached tens of millions, hundreds of millions across YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, inspiring people around the world to donate to help those in need. Over the last 5 years, he's given millions of dollars to hundreds of people. He is GoFundMe's #1 creator of fundraisers started on behalf of others. And what's driving it all isn't just kindness, it's his faith. Jimmy shared with us that his mission is to show people what God's love looks like in action, one story at a time. Emily, tell me about your conversation with Jimmy that you just had.
It was very moving. I will say prepping for this interview was very different because I don't think I've ever cried so much in my research because I spent most of my research watching his videos, getting into a rabbit hole. I don't know how you can watch those videos and not be moved by them.
Yeah, he's
So,
incredible.
yeah,
And what I love about him is like I had no idea what he looked like
right.
forever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Well, if you're one of those people who didn't know what he looked like, you're about to because he's about to join Emily. And like I mentioned, this series, the whole series, all 6 episodes, is presented by the Christian humanitarian organization World Vision. I've had a chance to travel and see their relief, development, and advocacy work overseas, and I can tell you it's truly life-changing. With a presence in nearly 100 countries, World Vision helps equip children, families, and communities to lift themselves out of poverty. To learn how to be a part of what God is doing around the world, check out worldvision.org/relevant. And they're celebrating their 75th anniversary this year. So happy birthday, World Vision. All right, without any further ado, here's Emily's conversation with Jimmy Darts.
Jimmy, thank you for joining me today. It's so fun to have you here. I think millions of people have seen your just viral generosity, but how and when did all of this start for you?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. It's a blast being on the show and yeah, honestly, it really started when I was a kid. When I was 10 years old, my parents for Christmas, they're like, "Hey Jimmy, we got a surprise for you this year. Instead of gifts, we're giving you cash." So I was excited, jumping up and down, and they go, "We got $200 for you." I'm like, "All right, cool," thinking of what I could buy, and they go, "But there's a catch. Half of it you got to give away to a stranger." And I was like, "What the heck?" I was like, "A tithe is only 10%. You want me to give half of this away?" And I was like, "Shoot, all right." And so I ended up giving $100 to this gentleman who was just out on the street, freezing in the cold. And the look on his face as a little kid hands him $100 bill when he had just gotten, probably quarters thrown at him and middle fingers that day and looks and stuff it was just something I'll never forget. Just the warmth in his eyes of just being like, man, I can get a meal today. I can get a jacket. And I got back in my mom's car and I was like, man, and looking back at that, that was 19 years ago. I'm 29 now. I have no idea what I bought with the other $100. And it's like, wow, how instrumental that was of my parents to have me do that as a young kid. And now to see that's what I'm doing, every day going around the country doing that. It's just something that's really fun, really amazing. This journey really started when I was like, man, I want to be generous. I want to give. And I think the internet really needs some positivity out there. And so there was this gentleman, he was living on the beach in Miami, and I said, "Hey man, is it all right? I just wondering if you need a friend today, you want to hang out, have some fun." And he goes, "Sure, absolutely." And so we get in the car, we go like roller skating, we go eat some food. We're like playing basketball 2-on-2. We're just having a blast. And in the car on the way to drop him off, I was like, man, like, is it okay if I'm, upload this on the internet, man? I want to inspire people, to be kind to other people. And he starts getting emotional, just saying how hard life had been on him and that he was wanting to give up and that this day really changed his perspective on everything. And I was like, what if instead of me just blessing you and having fun today, like what if the internet also has like a big heart for people? And so I threw his Cash App, just his handle in at the end of the video. And I didn't think anything of it. I was like, man, maybe in the morning I'll wake up and he's got, 50, like $200 or something like that. And sure enough, it was like over $20,000.
Wow.
And I could not believe it, and I was like, "Wow, is this like a one-off, or do people actually, like, wanna give consistently like this?" And sure enough, they just give and give and give. People from all types of backgrounds, political backgrounds, belief systems, like, when your heartstrings are pulled on a video, people just get so generous, and that's really when this whole journey started, around 5 years ago.
I love that your idea was, what if we made the internet good? Because I don't think that many people have that mindset or have had that thought. When did you first realize that social media could become like a real force for good in the world?
I think it was just when I started making these videos, I wasn't sure how to, take this a step further and how I could really do this. And I felt like the Lord, just put on my heart. He's like, Jimmy, I want you to ask people for help. And when they help you, I want you to change their life. And I'm like, that's really interesting. I've never heard of someone doing that, asking for help. Like usually every influencer is like, oh, here, quick, get a camera shot of me, like giving a car away or doing something. But the Lord was like, no, actually, if you do it this way, the focus is going to be on the people, not on yourself. And I was like, dang, that's genius. And so I began doing this more frequently. And I would ask people for help at laundromats, at gas stations for their last dollar, last quarter to help me. And when they did, I would say, I actually don't need your help. I wanted to find the first kind person today. $500, $1,000. Like I said, we just kept raising money. People just kept donating. The comments kept flooding in. And the coolest thing about it was I wasn't the hero. It was the random guy that I met at the Goodwill who bought me the shirt, who all the comments were about him. And social media is so much about the influencers, but the audience really got the message I was trying to put across. Like, no, don't, like, sure, if you want to say Jimmy's cool, like, great, that's awesome. But I could care less. Like, I just want people to understand not only is there amazing people in the world, but also there's amazing people worldwide on the internet, because this wouldn't be possible without them. Like, I don't have $20,000 to give away every day. But when people chip in $2, $5, it adds up. And it's just been really touching to see that, I've just been honestly blown away by the kindness of strangers.
Is there like any particular story or instance that's really stuck with you like over the last 5 years?
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely a couple. One I would say is probably my favorite was I was in Anaheim, California, and I was walking on the street, just looking for someone to make their day. And I see this guy kind of hunched over by the bushes, and I get talking to him, and his name's Steve. He's a homeless veteran, and he was actually like hooked on heroin. And I was like, man, I just can pray for this guy, encourage him, but I can't help this guy. Like, it's way over my head, his situation, like it's just too bad. But he needs to go somewhere where he can get, more help than what I can offer. And as I'm about to walk away, the Lord just like puts it on my heart. He's like, actually turn around and ask Steve what's on his bucket list. And I'm like, what's on his bucket list? Like, what? This guy's going to think I'm being like sarcastic or something. He's just trying to survive. And I go back there. I'm like, oh, Steve, just curious, man. Is there anything on your bucket list? And I'm expecting him to have nothing to say. And he just jumps up and he goes, man, I want to go skydiving. I want to go deep sea fishing, and I want to go on a hot air balloon. This guy, mind you, is like almost 70 years old. I'm like, my goodness, I don't even know if I want to do those things. And I'm like, all right, I did what the Lord asked me to. I asked this guy what's on his bucket list, made his day, encouraged him. I'm going to head home. And as soon as I start walking away, the Lord's like, do all three with him. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So I turn back. I'm like, Steve, I know you just met me. This is crazy. I don't know you. You don't know me. Like, I could be crazy. You could be crazy, but I'm just going to trust the Lord here, man. You're awesome. And I'm coming back in an hour to get you. And he didn't think I was coming back. And I pulled back in my Honda, picked him up. And sure enough, the next morning, like 5 a.m., we were floating above the earth in a hot air balloon. And he was just looking out the hot air balloon. And he was like, man, it's so beautiful out there. You could see everything. And I'm just squeezing the rail and like, yeah, you're right. And it was crazy. And then when we land, he's like, when are we going skydiving? I was like, oh, Steve, like, man, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if you can do it. You're almost like 70 years old, like, and your back's like hunched over, like if you want to. And sure enough, we did. And he jumped out of a plane and he was like the best experience of his life. And we went deep sea fishing, didn't catch any sharks, but caught like a little minnow or whatever. And from that, Steve was able to just experience what it felt like to be loved again, experience like that life can be fun. He had gone through so much hardship in his life that what it's like when you go through a hard day, a hard week, it almost feels impossible to get out of that, let alone if you don't have like a strong relationship with the Lord. And he had had years of this, years and years of just zero community, zero friends, all this. And through this process, he was able to get off heroin. He was able to raise money for him, got him in a home to live in. He ended up, just completely transforming his life. One day I was in Anaheim and this truck pulls up, this like Suburban. I'm like, who's that? And he's like, yo, it's Steve. What's up? I'm like, Steve, like, I didn't even know you had a license. He's like, oh, but I got a new car. And just seeing this guy get loved on. And so I think that's really one of my main messages to people is it's controversial, but mean people need the biggest hugs. People that not saying that Steve was mean, but I really think that there's gold in every single human being, and that gold can be covered up, can be hidden by things that happen as a child, things that happen as an adult. We all make bad choices, some way more intense than others, but at the end of the day, like we're made in God's image and there's gold in us. And if we can pull the gold out, we can begin to actually be like, wow, I'm born to be this person and then become more of that. I'm sure you've all seen like there's like these like memes or pictures on the internet of like an elephant and he's got like a little shackle around his ankle being held by a stick. It's like the elephant could walk away in a second, but in his mind he's like, that's who I am. I'm a part of the circus. I can't leave. And when I think people understand the beauty that's in them, they can really become that.
How do you choose who to help and kind of deciding what exactly they may need in that moment?
Yeah, really, a lot of it is just driving around for hours and hours. Like one day I felt like I was like, God, I just try to do everything with friendship with Jesus. I know that might sound crazy to some people, but I'm like, yo, Jesus is either not real, not true, he's it's all fake, or he's real. And if he's real, then I want to know him and I want to be his friend because he's so amazing. And so I'm like, if I'm gonna follow him, I'm gonna do it wholeheartedly. And so I'm like, I'm gonna drive around, I'm gonna do my job with him, I'm gonna do everything with him. And so I just was like, God, what should I do today? I felt like he said, man, ask somebody for a hug. And so I drove around for hours in my car and no one I felt like peace on to go ask for a hug. And then finally at like 7:30, like the sun was setting, I'm driving home and I see this guy on a bike and I'm like, that's the guy. And I'm like, man, so sorry, buddy. Can I have a hug? This guy stops his bike with his feet because he had no brakes, gives me a hug. I give him $500. He just starts weeping, this grown man. And he's like, today the boss at work paid everyone except for me. And I was like, man, that's horrible. Oh my goodness. And we ended up, becoming best friends, raised like $30,000 for him to move back home to El Salvador, where he was from. But it's a lot of instances like that. And then other instances like Sebastian, he was a homeless, not homeless, sorry. He was blind broom salesman in Arizona. And for him, I just saw his story on social media and then connected the dots to, wow, this guy is here on this corner at this day, so I'm going to try to intersect him. So sometimes people will tell me of stories of like at Sprouts a couple months ago, the manager there was like, hey, Jimmy, I don't know if you still do those videos or not, but there's a guy that works here and he's actually like homeless. And if you ever want, like come in and ask him for help or do your thing. And so I came in and was able to ask this guy, Jeff, for help. And he thought about it for a second, ended up helping me. And we raised over $100,000 and got him off the streets into a place. So it's a mixed range of different things.
I'm sure a lot of people probably romanticize the work that you do, but I know people who work with those in need and they talk about like just the emotional heaviness that can come with it of seeing people in need and figuring that out. So is that something that you deal with? And if so, what are some things you do to stay engaged in that work while also staying grounded?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I know a lot of people are in way more intensive situations than me. You know, a lot of the people that I help, Steve was kind of an extreme example of that. For the most part, a lot of it is I find people that, are just everyday people that are, shopping at Walmart or laundromats, not necessarily always homeless. And so I think when you're dealing with people that are actually homeless on the streets, you deal with a lot of that stuff where I once in a while will encounter someone that's on the streets and help them out. But for the most part, it's single moms, it's people that, have jobs and are just going through stuff. So I don't see too much like wild situations. I've definitely been in a few, but you just have to remind yourself that, yeah, like these people are, are just needing love right now. That's what they need, like they don't need a lecture. They don't need you to tell them what's wrong with them. They just need you to sit down, love on them. And if you can make a difference in their life, amazing. If you can't, at least you can try. You're responsible for what you do, not how they respond to what you do. So a lot of people, they'll be like, man, I don't know if I want to bless this person or do this because how will they steward it or this or that? It's like, man, if God treated us that way, we'd all be cooked. Like it's his love that comes to us and it's if we choose to receive it. And so for people, obviously use wisdom in how you help people. But at the end of the day, we're just called to help. And then people are up to how they decide to steward it and how they decide to do those things. So yeah, it's been a great journey, but try to keep a light heart in it all and have fun more than anything.
I feel like that's such like the right goal and mindset to have. But with, social media, I mean, some of your content has gone like mega viral. How do you keep that kind of reach from becoming the goal and not just helping that person in need?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just staying off of social media as much as you can. I know it sounds crazy if you're like, wait, you do social media full time, but I really just try to stay off it as much as possible, and be a producer on there, not a consumer, because there is so much negative stuff and this and that. And at the end of the day, yeah, my foundation is just always spending time with the Lord and then from Him loving on people. And as much as I would want to control something or do this or that. Like as soon as my motive gets weird or the goal changes or whatever, like the Lord could just tell me to stop and I'd have to quit what I'm doing. So I always want to be sensitive to that. Keep people the main thing. Yeah, that's really the goal. Like when you see God's love for you, it's so easy to love other people. It's just a byproduct of that. And I think the great thing why I'm able to do this and continue doing it is because I had a blast, if not more fun, doing this stuff before I even made videos of it. After I
Mhm.
was 10 years old, it didn't stop there. Like I traveled around the world. I lived in India, living with random strangers, lived in Brazil, Australia, and I dressed up as Santa and run around the streets of India and like all just had a blast doing this stuff and just loving on people. And social media was something later on in life I got into, but yeah, really the key is it becomes weird if you only do things on camera, but it becomes, who you are in private is who you really are. And so just keeping
Mhm.
that always in mind and just keeping a tender heart before God that at any moment he could have me lay it down and at the same time just to stay humble. It's like, man, if you live by the praise of man, you'll also die by their criticism. So that's why comments are never a good idea. If people say great things about you, that's not good because then you'll think, oh, I'm something special, whatever. And if you read negative comments, you'll be like, should I stop what I'm doing? So trying to just avoid that, I think, is really key.
You mentioned a lot of this really started when you were 10. Did you have any idea that this is what you would be doing at 29, or did you think you were going to be doing something completely different?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't think it was possible. My whole life I had just thought like I don't know if, like if able to do what I want to do because it's not even a real job or a real anything. It's like, well, what's your real job going to be? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you can't just go around and like become Santa Claus and just give stuff away like you got to go to work. And I was like, what doesn't make any sense? But my dad early on really encouraged me. He's like, if you want to make something happen, you got to go do it. Start tomorrow. Don't wait for something to happen before you go do it. So I got in my car and went around the country and just the little that I had gave it away and like would drain my bank account, taking like people parasailing and, buying them jackets and going to amusement parks. And eventually, yeah, like the internet started donating to make that happen.
As your platform has grown each year and just your foundation has grown, how has that changed how you think about responsibility and stewardship and impact?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people look up to you, when you have a social media platform and have a lot of followers. And I think the most important thing for me is just to be more authentic each and every day to who I really am. So be more bold about Jesus' love for people, more bold about how he can pull them out of anything and never become inside a box. I think as people grow, a lot of times you'll see that they're less bold on topics and this and that, but I want to be just more bold on my love for God and love for people. And so, yeah, I haven't felt like I've become less of myself, which a lot of people lose their self in the process of, going viral or whatever. I've tried to be actually the opposite of that. And so, yeah, that's just kind of my approach to it.
What are some things that you've done to sort of keep yourself grounded and not change who you are, but really grow into who you are?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, you could do a million things. You could go to some like darkness retreat, walk on some rocks or something, try all these things, and all that stuff's great. But for me, honestly, it's just in the morning, open up the Bible, get on your knees, spend time with God. He just loves you, encourages you. And the most important thing also he does is convicts you. A lot of times people, when they grow in status or whatever, less people around them feel they have the boldness to call things out in their life because they don't want to lose that friendship. But the cool thing about the Lord is he loves you more than anyone else. So you never get offended. You always know his intention, but also he'll call you out more than anyone else because he wants you to grow into who you really were made to be. So my identity is found in him. And the more I seek him, the more I find out who I am.
It's good advice. And speaking of advice, I think there's a lot of people who see what you're doing and see the impact you're making, and they want to do something like that themselves. What would you say to someone who wants to make an impact in people's lives, but isn't really sure where to start, or maybe even feels unqualified to do something?
Yeah, well, you're more than qualified. That's absolutely sure. If you've got a beating heart, we need everyone on this planet as possible to join the fight, to love people and to be a servant and to do that. And so you're absolutely qualified. It's not like becoming a pilot where you got to go to college for 5 years. Like to be kind to your roommate or your mom or whatever is absolutely free 99, I like to say. But yeah, we just need people to do that. And I think in their own way is cool. If you want to be generous with money and do it in the similar way that I do it, awesome. Go for that. Start at a laundromat. It only costs a couple quarters to make somebody's day. If you want to do it another way, if you're gifted at something else, music, you want to sing songs over people, hope, go for that. If you want to do arts and crafts and make like little note cards for people that are free and you hand out to them to encourage them. Like, I think the coolest thing about it is we're all called to love, but how that looks and what expression that is up to interpretation. And so we never want a million people to look the same. We want people to live out the gifts that they have. And that's really where the beauty is. We don't want a bunch of people just copying other people. If you get inspired by someone, go for it. But more powerful than that, like you have your own unique flavor. Just like we have our own unique thumbprints and fingerprints, we have our own unique giftings. And so just discover what that is, take risks. The most important thing is be faithful with little and you'll be given much. Steward what you have. If you have nothing, and you're wearing a backpack, just steward the books in your backpack and organize that and watch how God will grow that. Don't get discouraged by small beginnings and don't define success by numbers or reach or whatever. Success is determined by obedience to God and intention of heart, not by any external thing.
That's a good metric, I think, to have for whatever you're doing in life. I love that.
Yeah.
Before we wrap, I do want to talk about your book coming out, which I believe is next week.
Yeah, yeah. Next week, October 21st. I got it right here. It looks like a little birthday party exploded on the cover.
I love it. It's very like happy, exciting, fits the vibe perfectly. I would love to know what made you want to write this book right now.
Yeah, honestly, I was at a conference that I spoke at, and there was a book agent guy there, and he was like, "Jimmy, you should really write a book, man. You got some cool stories, and I think it'd be powerful." I was like, "Oh, sounds good." I just wasn't interested at all because I'd never have like read a book in my life really, other than like the Bible, you know. And he just kept calling me and calling me and calling me like over the course of I don't know, like a year and a half. And finally, I was like, "All right, man, like let's talk about this and maybe let's do it." And then I was actually like, I guess I could write a book. Like I do have some stories that could really help people, some analogies to really set people free. And if anything, I think the message I have to the world that I want them to tell people about is that God wants to be your friend. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but he actually is interested in being your friend. Like he is Lord over your life, but also friend. I think a lot of people see him as the CEO that they check in with once a week or once a month. But no, no, no. He's approachable. He wants to know you more than you want to even know him. And I just want people to understand that, because friendship with God makes life so exciting, so amazing. And the power of ordinary generosity, that's the other thing. And that just shows people, like, it's cool, yeah, when someone writes some big check or does something, this and that, but it's actually the small acts that no one sees and the tangible ones we all can do. Buy someone a cup of coffee behind you, hear their story, encourage them, and you'll be amazed at how that can change somebody's life. So I just wrote this book to, yeah, just really inspire people, the power of generosity, and to live a life full of love, not of fear, and just watch what can happen when you understand, wait, God's not like pissed and mad at me, actually wants to hang out and be my friend. This is crazy.
Yeah. I feel like the friendship of God is not something people talk about a lot. Why do you feel like that was the message that God wanted you to share in this moment in time?
Yeah, I think it's just what people need to know. They need to hear, The whole point is, like, the pastor is not closer to Jesus than you are. That's like the most dumbest thing ever. That's like a lie, like, he's as close to you if you're in the middle of the desert or you're like sleeping in a homeless shelter, like it has nothing to do with who you are. In the world, if you're a billionaire, you can call anyone's phone probably on the planet and they'll pick it up. But in the kingdom of God, it's the opposite. He could care less about status, who you are, who you were born into, any of that. What the hotline to heaven is purity in heart. And if you have a pure heart and seek God, you'll see him and you'll know him. And anyone and everyone has the ability to do that. And your past doesn't keep you from encountering him. That's the silliest thing ever. I know people struggle with that and think, man, because I did this or I'm born this way or that, like, I can't get to know God. I can't come to him. That is the silliest thing. Imagine you break your arm, or, something happens. God forbid you get hit by a car and you're like, don't bring me to the hospital. I'm bleeding. My arm's broken. Wait till I get healed. Bro, you're going to die on the street. It's like, yo, your soul and your life, you may have been doing things, experiencing things, you feel so much shame. Run to him. He's not mad. He wants to embrace you with his love and change you with his love. It says it's the goodness of God that leads men to repentance. And so if you're bandaged and bruised, don't run from him, run to him. And if you ever heard that he's going to be mad at you, you heard about the wrong Jesus, because the Jesus I know, yes, he doesn't affirm our sin and affirm our bad choices, but he loves us so much that we see the love in his eyes and we can't help but to surrender ourselves to him and to change our lives for him. I always say, like, if someone holds the door open for you at a grocery store, you say, oh, thank you. If someone buys you a meal at a restaurant, you're like, oh my gosh, wow, thank you. If someone bought you a house, you'd be like, bro, anytime you want, come stay here, come sleep here. But if someone dies for you, you are so moved, you'll do anything. And the truth is, if you, even you, Emily, if you were the only person on the planet, this is actually true. If you were the only human to ever have been born, heaven still would have went bankrupt to have a relationship with you, meaning Jesus still would have came, laid his life down if you were the only person on the planet. So yes, his forgiveness is for everyone, but it's also extremely personal.
I can't think of a better way to wrap up this interview than with that message. I think that's so evident in like all the videos that you create. Like that's your heart and your mission behind this. This was so fun. Thank you for joining
Yes.
me.
Thank you. You got a lot cooler background than I do. It's pretty boring. I'm in a hotel room, but yeah, you're awesome, and I just pray that, yeah, God could use your podcast more and more. You do a great job interviewing people and hearing
Thank
their
you.
stories and really pulling out the best parts of it. So I had a blast talking to you today.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That was Jimmy Darts. Do yourself a favor and be sure to follow Jimmy on social media at Jimmy Darts on Instagram and TikTok. Emily, what other platforms is he on? Obviously, YouTube.
He's on YouTube. He has a website, and if you go to that, you can find his GoFundMe's that he currently has going on as well.
JimmyDarts.com. Everybody join in, find ways to donate, find a story and a life you want to help change. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, this Impact Conversation series is presented by Christian humanitarian organization World Vision. Their approach to ending violence against children protects them today and empowers them for tomorrow. They do this by equipping them, their communities, and local partners with the tools to address the root causes of violence against children. I had a chance to see their work in Somaliland a few years ago and saw how World Vision quickly responded to the communities that were being ravaged by drought in the region. Learn more about how to be a part of their life-changing work at worldvision.org/relevant. And make sure to watch this channel for the next installment of our Impact series, where we have a can't-miss conversation with Jenny Allen. See you then.